Today we're going to be talking about interviews post-COVID and how they are probably changed forever. And talking with me today is Susan Heaton-Wright from superstarcommunicator.com. And Susan basically works with individuals to empower them in the business meetings and interviews. So she's a perfect person to talk through interviews and how to approach them. So Susan, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on this program.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. So yeah, let's kick off. And one thing that I've noticed is that there's two approaches to interviews going on nowadays. One is the send us a video and tell us all about yourself. In fact, my daughter had to do one for a job with Essex County Council. Didn't go down very well. She wasn't very happy about it. And she was in a full house at the time, so she ended up doing it from the car. And the other approach is obviously the old traditional interview, but taken online via Zoom or Microsoft Teams and so on. And they're two quite distinct approaches, aren't they, Susan? So do you want to sort of take us through those?
I think that they are two very distinct approaches. The first one that your daughter had was almost like an audition tape. And it's showing about who you are. And it can be very easy to go down the route of The Apprentice, for example, and having your audition video that's all jazz handy and showing what an amazing person you're going to be on screen.
Yeah.
And that might be appropriate for The Apprentice. It might not be appropriate for Essex County Council.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah, the style of the of how you approach it and how you come across. So it's really, really useful for you to consider what the job role is, what the job consists of. It might be that you have to be very face to face with clients and with customers, and you have to be outgoing and fun and friendly, in which case that might be a great thing to do to show your personality. But it might be that you're in a support role, that you're back room, that you're not in front of clients and customers, and you need to show other things, other qualities about what you do, and to really highlight them, highlight the fact that you are very well organized, that your time management is great, that you work very well in a team, and to really script out what you want to put across as in a more traditional interview. You might.
So you recommend a script then?
Yes, I would almost write a script out and practice it, and perhaps not read it. Because that's going, but see how you can do that. Perhaps you could put above your laptop, you could put a couple of little prompts of things that you know that you must say, and highlight all of those things that you feel are your superpower, the things that will really make a difference in that company. But as I say, there might be a role that's very centered towards the customer or clients, and you would highlight different parts of your personality and your experience and your expertise, as opposed to a job that's more backroom.
Yeah. Okay, so scripts, post-its perhaps with prompts, so you make sure you say what you need to say, practice it.
Make sure also that you're in a quiet place. Now, I know that you mentioned, Paula, that your daughter, when she did a video, she had to go to the car.
Yeah.
That was the only quiet place that there was. But little things like there being no background noise, that you can see that my face is lit up. And that's from natural light, because I'm getting that from the window. Thinking about that is just highlighting your face a little bit more. I don't have anything that's distracting in the background other than these wardrobe doors, but that's not really distracting. But if you had a messy room in the background,
Yeah.
that sort of thing, or you were sitting in front of a window with your back to the window, they wouldn't be able to see your face.
Yeah, you'd be in shadow, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Double check your technology, the sound levels as well, because it might be that you need to get an independent microphone, which I've got, that just enhances the sound, because you want to make it as easy as possible for people to watch you and listen to you. And if they're struggling with this sound, then they're going to switch off.
Yeah, I guess if your job is at all technical as well, you have to show you can do it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that's if people ask you to send a little video to show who you are, talk about who you are. And as you say, it's probably going to be if you're in a customer-facing job. Not always, but maybe they just want to get a glimpse of your personality.
I think so. And remember, you're selling yourself. You're selling your expertise, your characteristics, what you like doing, what your strengths are, and you know, make sure that you, in your script, you include all of those things. And if they say that it's a minute, don't do 5 minutes. Keep to the time schedule that they have suggested.
Okay. Okay. So, of course, the other one is the traditional interview brought online. And for many of us, that is hugely daunting.
Oh, absolutely. And what I've seen in the last 3.5 months, nearly 4 months that we've been in lockdown, I have delivered multiple webinars to people. And as time has gone on, people have begun to get more used to speaking on remotely and on video, which is great, but there are still some things to think about. First of all, again, think about the tech side, that the sound is working, that your face is lit up, that you know, perhaps you position your laptop so you're going to get the light on your face. It makes a real difference. And that you're not in a messy room.
Yeah.
That there's no background noise, and you're not being distracted, so you can focus literally on the interview rather than the fact that there's an argument between your kids outside. Yeah. And honestly, I know that there are people still looking after children and doing full-time work, and I really, really applaud you. If you can just calm them down and also let the interviewer know if there's going to be a problem. So,
I was just about to say that. Should you tell them up front there might be a dog barking or kids next door? Or
personally, I think that we are in a world where things are extraordinary, and we are having to deal with more people in our homes, particularly looking after children, homeschooling, and it will be different in September. It might be that they say, well, we want you to start the job in July, which is 2 days away, or August. What are you going to do if you've got kids? And then you could say, well, we're aware that by then there are going to be some things in place. I will be able to, grandma will be able to come because the lockdowns, just to reassure them, if that's the case.
Yeah, yeah.
But
okay, so
also, as with the first interview, I always go back to what the job description is.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really, really important. As with all of the work that I do with Superstar Communicator, my methodology, I always consider who the audience is going to be. So you need to know, quite often people will say who is going to be interviewing you, and do a bit of background work on both the company, the role that you're doing, but also the person that's interviewing you, because there could be some really, really interesting interaction there. It might be, by looking on LinkedIn, you might have worked in a similar company before. It might be that one of their colleagues is somebody that you know, might be that you were at the same university.
Yeah, same connections or whatever. Yeah.
I, about 2 months ago, I had a business meeting with one of the big four, to deliver some online workshops, which I did. And I did that, and the lady that I was speaking to just so happened she went to university in America, where my uncle had been head of neurology. You know, just one of those bizarre things.
Mm.
I mentioned that straight away. We had rapport.
Yeah, yeah. So it's about, okay, so looking for something that connects you.
Yes.
Excuse me one moment. Talking of people and animals, my cat has just walked in and opened the door. I obviously planned this to illustrate unforeseen happenings going on.
Yeah, and you know, I always say with meetings, and this is a meeting, if you can stop any distractions, if you can, or explain, I've got a cat outside that's scratching trying to get in, or the kids, switch off your mobile phone, switch off your Outlook, switch off any emails, things that could distract you.
Yeah, even if it's for a moment, people can tell, your eyes go, yeah.
Absolutely, and that wouldn't be happening in a face-to-face.
No, of course, you'd be totally.
Yeah, whereas
Yeah.
in a virtual world, people are going to be aware of these little distractions. They are almost made bigger by a virtual, on a virtual screen. So we need to make sure that we're totally focused.
Yeah. So I've been noticing you as you talk, and I'm doing it now, but you've been using using your hands and so on. Obviously, over on a computer, a lot of that might be going underneath, or people you can't see. Do you think that we need to do this to exaggerate it, to give it a bit of life?
I believe that we use our hands naturally with gestures, just as we use our facial expression and our body language. And if you can, you know, if I were to, I put my hands down there, but you can sort of see that. But I think, you know, we would be doing this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not like that, but just a little bit, because we naturally emphasize certain words, don't we, when we use gestures?
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to do that.
Okay.
A lot of communications people, particularly people that talk about presenting online, want you to hold your hands like this, and it's not natural.
No,
And
no.
you know as well as I do, Paula, that when you tell somebody not to do something, your mind gets distracted by that.
Yeah.
And I'm giving you permission to use your gestures.
Yeah, yeah. I guess as long as they're authentic. If you don't do it, then suddenly breaking out, totally surprised.
Absolutely. It just doesn't quite look right.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right.
Okay. And how about, I mean, obviously a big thing, and I know you're all about behavior and voice and so on, but one of the things is dressing, isn't it? The clothes that you wear.
Yes.
Anything like that?
Obviously, I'm not a style expert. However, I would dress as if I were going to be going into that office. It might be that you're in a creative environment where the setup is slightly different, where they don't mind if you're wearing a hoodie and things like that. Excuse me, but I would dress up slightly if that's the case, because actually you don't know if the role is going to mean that you need to wear a suit or you need to wear. So I would don't wear anything that's distracting. So ladies, no really low dresses, something plain colored rather than something really bitsy, because the camera can really pick up that, and it can be a little bit distracting. But make sure that you are nice and smart. As to hair, we understand at the moment, lockdown hair, just do the best you can.
Yeah. I suppose big earrings is a no-no. I've got some lovely earrings that jangle like crazy, drive
And
any interviewer
also
mad.
bracelets. I don't know if
Yes.
you've ever had interview. I've interviewed people that have got these really noisy bracelets, and you know, of course, if you're using your hands for gestures and there's this going on, it can be distracting.
Yeah. Especially on the camera, because everything seems to be sort of, the volume goes up, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it's highlighted far more.
Yeah, I agree with you about the dressing up thing. I know when I've interviewed people, I always think it's a little bit mark of respect that people do dress up a bit. It shows they're taking it seriously.
Definitely, and certainly, as I say, I've done a lot of online training, coaching, and webinars and live virtual workshops, and I always dress up as if I were going into an office. It also is subconsciously, well, you're the expert on this.
Yeah.
Consciously, you are going to work. You're preparing for going to work.
Yeah, you're getting yourself in the right headspace.
Yeah.
So let's talk about voice, because obviously I know this is really your subject area. So for those of you listening here, Susan was an opera singer, weren't you? And you still do a lot of singing.
Yes.
So you know all about the voice. Tell us how we should be using it over a Zoom interview or Teams or whatever.
This is a really, really useful one. And in fact, I really, really know about the voice, but I also know, because I was an opera singer, it was the performance. And it was not literally the voice, it was the preparation, understanding your audience so you could really get a rapport, and your body language. From the voice point of view, what I would say is that essentially people have got to be able to hear you in the interviews, whether you like it or not. And we've got a drill outside, so I hope you can't hear that.
No, I can't hear it yet.
Okay, brilliant. But it is really important in those situations that you've done a sound check. Also, people's voices go up, they become higher pitched when we are in certain situations. So if we're nervous, the pitch of our voice can go up higher. If we're trying to make the voice louder, there can be a tendency for the pitch of the voice to go higher. But also there's been quite a bit of research done on pitch of voice when you're speaking to somebody else, when you think that they are more senior to you. This was done by Stirling University, and they analysed the pitch of voice when people went in for these interviews, and they were pretend interviews. And when the person perceived that they were more senior than the other person, the pitch of their voice went slightly lower. And when they perceived that they were higher pitched, the pitch of their voice went higher. So that they were less senior, not less pitched.
Okay,
they went higher. What does that mean?
So the more senior they felt, the more gravitas they showed in their voice. Yeah.
Yes. Which was a really interesting one. This was all subconscious. People didn't know that they were doing that. Now it's interesting you use the word gravitas, because gravitas has a lot of different meaning, and it's quite an old-fashioned word, isn't it? And to me, gravitas can mean authority in an old-fashioned way, but credibility.
Yeah, credibility, that's what I say.
I think that credibility is a great word for that. So what I want you to be aware of is that you maintain, that your voice maintains, is relaxed. And really think about those times when you feel nervous and it goes a little bit high like this, or if you're excited and all, the pitch of the voice can go higher, but there's something going on in your larynx that enables that. Now, I've got quite a high-pitched voice for a woman. I was a soprano. Paula, your natural pitch is lower than mine.
Yeah.
But you would you wouldn't pick out that, oh, my voice is higher pitched than yours because my voice is relaxed. Whereas if I was like this, you would pick up immediately that either I was nervous or I thought that I was more junior to you.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
Really,
I'll tell you one thing. In the past, when I have gone for interviews, when I was much younger, I used to giggle, nervous giggling.
Yeah.
Any tips on that? Because again, I think that's related to the voice, isn't it, as well?
Is related to the voice, and it's related to confidence, really. And I think that comes on to the actual content of what you're saying in an interview, whether you're trying to subconsciously undervalue what you say through giggling at the end, you know what I mean? Like that, or that you ask a question or you do that awful uplift that you say what you're saying, and you know, I've said this something profound, but I'm going to try and make it into a question because I'm not really sure what I'm saying.
Although I'm from Wales, and actually we do that anyway.
Yeah, but you go up and down all the way out. I bet you would go a set at the end, wouldn't you?
Well, actually, which leads me to another thing. If you have a really strong regional accent, you know, do you need to slow down and everything, or do you just need to be you?
Oh, accents is a massive one, isn't it? I love accents. I'm originally from Birmingham, although I speak exactly like my mum, and she's from Lancashire. So, you know, that there's a sort of neutral accent here. I love accents, but I believe that you need to speak so it's as easy as possible for other people to understand what you say. So if you are from Surrey and you go up to Glasgow, it is likely that the Glaswegians won't understand you that easily because it's a very different accent. So we have to be aware of who our audience are, be aware of how we sound. You might want to get feedback from people. And it's not, you don't take it personally. Just think, how can I speak clearly so the other people understand me? So speak slightly slower. Be aware of any consonants that perhaps you don't speak very clearly, particularly for people whose English is not their native tongue. There might be particular sounds that are not very clear. But for an interview, when there are a number of people that are being interviewed, people will switch off if it's too difficult for people to understand. So speak slower, really think about the pronunciation of particular sounds. And getting back to the gesture thing, there are always 2 or 3 words in a sentence that you naturally emphasize. And if you're using gestures as well, you will emphasize those words.
Interesting. So you talked about being, you know, obviously the deeper your voice sounds, the more gravitas or credibility perhaps, you know, you're helping yourself show. And you talked about having to feel relaxed for that, so that your voice doesn't start floating away up there. So any tips on how to get into that relaxed state? Because it's very easy to say, well, just be relaxed.
Oh, absolutely. In real life, if I'm working with people when they're standing, I talk about diva feet, and that's a way that you can get rid of a lot of tension, particularly in your neck and your shoulders and this area that can create tension, and that can stop your voice coming out in a really good way. But also people pick up that tension because they can see that with your body language. Now, most interviews you're sitting down. So I have, unless it's an operatic audition, ironically, or dance, I talk about sitting diva. There's a way that you can sit, which in the same way you can be grounded and You can get rid of that tension so that this area, you probably noticed all the way through, this area has been really, really relaxed. And it's good posture and good open body language that people are not going to be threatened by, or they're not going to think, oh gosh, this person's not very confident.
Yeah.
And so there is a way that I sit and I show people how to do that so that they've got a good, professional, credible way of sitting. And that,
so am I sitting all wrong, or how would I do the diva? You call it the diva sitting?
Sitting diva. So I have my feet firmly on the ground, and if necessary, you need to sit a little bit forward on your chair if you're not able to do that. So I've got some weight on my feet, and also I use my what I call my sitting bones, those bones in my hips that I sit on, and I focus on putting the weight on them and on my feet, so it drops the tension. So if I were like this, and we see people like this, I'm overemphasizing, and I drop that weight onto my sitting bones and on my feet, and can you see how much more relaxed it is? It becomes more relaxed as well.
Yeah, you do feel quite grounded and quite centered.
And if you do get nervous all the way through, or you suddenly feel, oh gosh, my voice has gone higher, I'm feeling a bit tense, just check it. Think, my feet, my sitting bones, rid of that tension. It can be a little anchor to relax you.
Yeah. Oh, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant tip.
Thank you.
Okay, so we sort of talked about the little videos that you might have to do to show who you are. We've talked about online interviews. And hopefully at some point we're going to be getting out there and actually having face-to-face interviews again. But obviously I think they will be changed. We're not going to be rushing to shake hands in the immediate future. How do you see interviews, face-to-face interviews, being in the foreseeable future, Susan?
I mean, I hope they go ahead, because particularly for senior positions, there is nothing like meeting somebody face to face. But there is going to be that awkward moment. Do I hold out my hand? We have to assume that doesn't happen. And so you possibly need to think about an introduction that you can do. Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm Susan Heaton-Wright. And the other person is probably going to say, if you'd like to sit down here, we've got 3 people on the panel here today. And instead of doing that, so say good morning, or lovely to meet you, those sorts of things.
Yeah. I think the one thing to remember about that is it's going to be awkward for everybody, isn't it? It's not just you. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it might be that the person leading the interview actually says, well, of course we're not going to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add today, Susan?
What I would say is that it's really, really important when you are communicating virtually to adopt what I call the brief method. There is a communications expert who's a good mate of mine called Joe McCormack, and he's in the United States, and he says that you can make more impact by speaking less.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
And me too. And this is particularly important for the virtual world, because we get distracted by far more things. In the real world, we've got the non-verbal communication, and I have talked about that a little bit, and we have to really, really be aware of that in the virtual world. But there are many other distractions, and it's more tiring when you are on the screen. Therefore, it is really, really important that you try and be brief and keep everything at a headline level. If people want more information, they will ask you, but don't go into all of this detail.
Yeah, that is true. I've noticed that it is harder to interrupt people online. Yeah, in real life you have all the little clues, people lean forward or lean
Yeah.
back and all that sort of stuff, but online it's very hard to sort of move on to the next topic sometimes. Yeah.
So when you're thinking about possible content for an interview, really think and really think about those headlines, those sort of summaries of answers, but make sure that you include all of the information that you need.
Yeah. And I guess, you know, you could actually say, well, in brief, would you like me to go into more detail? And then it's up to them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good tip, because I think if you're at all nervous as well, the tendency might be to sort of and splurge it all out.
And
Yeah.
that really doesn't work in a virtual situation.
No. And I suppose the other side of virtual interviews is tying things up and leaving. I mean, I know the onus is on the interviewer, who will probably go, oh, thank you for your time and so on. But, you know, like I've noticed even in you know, meetings with people, that people are like, bye, should I say bye? Should I wave? You know, it's all a little bit awkward at the moment, isn't it? Any tips on that? Leaving gracefully?
Yeah, I mean, I always believe that anything that you say, if you're contributing in meetings or an interview, that you finish with what I call a call to action.
Okay.
And so it might be that you have already said, I would love to be a member of this company. I've respected this company for a long time, and to be able to work within your team would be brilliant. And if you say, oh, bye-bye, but bye-bye is going to be the last thing people remember.
Yes.
But if the last thing is that you say, and just to reiterate, I would really love to have the opportunity to work with this company.
Yeah, that's so much stronger, isn't it?
Yeah. And I say this to people, you know, when I train in presentation skills, so often there's a Q&A, and then there's this sort of faff, oh, well, thank you, Susan, for speaking.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have the cup of tea now, or whatever it is. But if you say to the people, Q&A, finish off, and then, are there any more questions? Jump in, and then do your call to action again.
Yeah. So round it off. Yeah. It doesn't go out in a fizzle. Yeah.
Yeah. And people remember the last thing that you've said. So that's really your opportunity to really anchor and remind them that you want to work there.
Brilliant. Okay. Oh, that's really good. All of it is really good advice, Susan. Thank you. Thank you. So if anybody wants to check out Susan's site, it's superstarcommunicator.com. And thank you for your time today, Susan.
That's my pleasure.
And everyone, good luck with your interviews.
Good luck.